Welcome back. We are going to focus on Article 3 and Article 4 of the Constitution in this video. So let's get to it. So Article 3, we know, establishes the judicial branch, and the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting and applying federal law. So typically, whenever we think of the judicial branch, we automatically associate that with the Supreme Court. And that's partially right. The Supreme Court is part of the judicial branch, but it's not the only thing in the judicial branch. So the federal judicial branch includes the Supreme Court and also lower federal courts or inferior courts, courts that are not quite as supreme as the Supreme Court. Okay, so these courts include things like the district courts, the appellate courts, and we'll look at all of those in class. Next, requirements and terms. This is an interesting one. The Constitution gives no specific requirements for what a person has to meet or have in order to become a member of the federal court system. The only requirement is that you've got to be appointed by the president and confirmed or approved by the Senate. That's it. So there's no age requirement, there's no citizenship requirement, there's no education requirement, there's no professional requirements, nothing. Now, the idea behind that is if you're going to be appointed by the president and approved by the Senate, you're probably going to have all of those qualifications. Like you're going to be, not a teenager, no offense. You're going to have some sort of experience in government at some point in your life. So, but yeah, there's no real requirements in order to become a member of the federal court. They also serve life terms. It kind of sounds like a prison sentence, but they serve for life or until they choose to retire. They are, however, able to be impeached and removed from office if they do something that is, unconstitutional. The jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and this word jurisdiction refers to an area of influence or an area of authority, okay? So the Supreme Court has multiple types of jurisdiction. They can hear cases the first time they're presented, that's called original jurisdiction. They can also hear cases on appeal, meaning they have appellate jurisdiction. So if you start at the lower federal court, you work your way up, you can eventually get to the Supreme Court, okay? So that's Article 3. Now let's dive into Article 4. So Article 4 deals with the relationships between the states, okay? Sometimes this is called the section that deals with federalism, but Article 4 is dealing with the states, okay? So the first one we want to look at is the Privileges and Immunities of Citizens Clause. And this clause tells us that if you are a citizen of the United States, that means if you're a citizen of a state, that means you're the citizen of the United States, okay? If you live in Missouri, you cannot be treated differently just because you live in Missouri, okay? Everyone in the United States is treated the same no matter what state they live in, okay? Next, we've got full faith and credit. Now, this deals specifically with the states. So every state, according to this article, has to give full faith and credit to all of the laws and judicial proceedings of every other state. Okay, so anytime that, like, for example, if I get married in Missouri and I move to Illinois, I don't have to get married in Illinois or to reapply for a marriage license. I'm still married. Okay. Next, we've got extradition. So if you commit a crime in one state and you flee to another state, you have to be brought back to the state in which the crime was committed in order to be punished for that. So extradition is the process of bringing people back to the area that a crime was committed in so they can be charged and hopefully found not guilty. The last thing is the admission of new states and territories. So according to the Constitution, if we want to add a new state to the Union or a new territory, that has to go through Congress. So basically, the state would have to draft some sort of a constitution. They would have to seek approval from Congress. Congress would have to grant that approval, and then the state or the territory could be added to the United States. And I will stop there. If you guys have any questions, let me know.